It gets better.
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 It does get better.
So when I was in 7th grade, a number of girls started threatening me, stalking me, vandalizing my locker, pushing me. At some point, one of these girls jumped me, slapped me, tried to beat me up. It was really, really, really stressful, and it was very gender-based.
I grew up in South Texas, which is not an ideal place for people like me who are LGBT or gender nonconforming or what have you. It was a struggle, and it took a lot of courage.
What did happen is my friend pretty much abandoned me, and I felt more alone than ever. I was depressed. I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to talk to anyone. It was a really, really dark time for me, and I felt like I had no one to talk to.
Through high school, it got worse and worse and worse. But it didn't stop with just peers. I had teachers. My 4th grade teacher went to the principal and told the principal that I needed to be referred to a psychological counselor because she was not aware that I was a girl until 3 or 4 months into the school year, despite the fact that my name was Lila Jane. I find that hard to believe. In 5th grade, my teacher would not allow me to go to the class swim trip because I would not wear a girl's bathing suit. I wanted to wear swim trunks and a tank top instead.
So I had a bully named Matt, who I knew since 2nd grade. You know, in a small town, you kind of know everyone, and I knew Matt for the longest time. By the time he got to high school, he was a neo-Nazi and a homophobe. So every single day I got to deal with his craziness. I felt extremely alone. I didn't know what he was angry at more, whether the fact that I was brown or the fact that I was gay.
When I went on my first date, I felt like, wow, this is great. This feels wonderful. But then I felt horrible. I felt like I was doing something wrong because it seemed like it was totally against what I had grown up to know was normal. And so what happened then was I actually thought about killing myself. And so I lined up pills and was really depressed and was ready to do something that would have been terrible.
When I was growing up, there was no information about transgender stuff at all. This is before the internet, before websites and things like that. And so there was no information. And I was so scared to talk about it that I didn't even find any information until I went off to college. And then I struggled for a long time because I went to see a therapist for a number of years. I told my parents during the summer break after my first year in college, and I told them this, and my parents rushed me to the emergency room of the hospital.
The reason that I came to this country was because when my parents found out that I was a lesbian, the reaction was so severe and so damaging that I had to leave England. And after seeking some help, I was pretty much told, you need to get away. So I went 3,000 miles, and this was following a pretty intense time when my mother actually said to me, if you ever do this again, I will commit suicide.
When I came out to my father, his initial reaction was, well, he said something to me in Spanish, which I'm not sure you can say on video, but he said, ¿Por qué tanta mierda? And then he said, which means why so much, ends with an S or starts with an S and ends with a T. And then he said, well, you can't be gay because you're not effeminate and you don't wear dresses, you don't act like a girl, so how can you be gay?
I got married right out of high school, married my high school sweetheart, thought I was in love, had the house of my dreams, the job of my dreams, and had 2 beautiful children. It wasn't until much later that I really came to terms with who I was. Some people know when they're in kindergarten, some people know immediately, but that wasn't me.
It sort of soaked into my pores, and I then was in DC during the March on Washington. This was 1987, and I had this complete awakening, I think, in myself, which was not about my sexual orientation, but it was about my self-esteem. and this realization that I was totally normal.
I didn't think there was people like me for a long time. And when I finally met my first gay friend, the two of us had so much to talk about. It was no longer pretending to be a macho guy.
I first came out when I was on the bench about 5 years ago because I got really tired of putting up a wall between my personal life and professional life.
But one of the things I discovered that has been so incredible is that once you're able to reach out and make connections with other LGBT people, what you'll find is an incredible sense of community, and you'll find a family.
If you're being bullied and if you're being treated unfairly by other people, one good idea is to become a lawyer. As a lawyer, you are very powerful and you get to spend all day fighting the bullies and fighting the bad guy. We want you to grow up. We want you to contribute to our community. We need you. So please hang in there. It definitely gets better.
I went to law school because I wanted to help LGBT people. After high school, I threw myself into any kind of LGBT activism that I could, because I never ever wanted to be alone like I had felt in high school, and I didn't want to let any other LGBT person lose their life because of ignorance and intolerance.
I am a prosecutor, and that means that I stand up for justice and safety for the citizens of San Francisco. Similar to what you see in Law and Order. That's the job that I do every day.
I was thrust into a position of both defending the mayor and his action, but also we pretty quickly decided to bring our own affirmative challenge against the state's marriage laws on behalf of the city and county.
I was appointed to the Superior Court about 30 years ago in 1981 by Jerry Brown, the first time he was a governor. And it was quite a to-do because I was the first out lesbian to be appointed a judge any place in the country. Some people said any place in the world.
And when I finally did come out, my dad was devastated. He cried. And it felt like I could never do anything that would fix that, fix the damage that had come between our relationship. Eventually I decided I wanted to become an attorney. And when I talked to my dad about it, he was actually really discouraging. He told me that he didn't want me to be an attorney because he was worried that I would use my law degree to help gay people get civil rights. And as a matter of fact, I do.
He took me to my first BALIF dinner, and it was one of the most empowering experiences I ever had. I'll never forget walking in and seeing a room full of hundreds and hundreds of men and women all wearing business suits, and they were either LGBTs or very supportive of LGBTs. And I just remember being there and realizing what great support that I had within this community, and I'll never forget that. And I remembered also that night that I had this realization that I could excel in this business, in this industry, and that's exactly what I've done.
The thing was, I never gave up. If there was a time when I was unemployed, it meant there was more time for me to do work on behalf of the community, and it was more time for me to give back to other people. And if 99% of the people were going to be problems, that means I just needed to talk to 100. And so I just kept at it.
A documentary found out about us and sort of featured us in that documentary. It's called 8 The Warmer Proposition. And we were able to share our story to literally tens of thousands of people. And that's really how it's gotten better for me and Tyler, is that we've been sharing our story every chance we get. We keep, telling people that all it is love. I mean, that's all it is.
And I'm very proud that we have a very diverse firm with 3 LGBT attorneys and 4 LGBT paralegals and staff members. I'm also proud that we've served the LGBT community since the earliest days of the AIDS crisis back in the early 1980s in a broad range of matters. But particularly, we always said yes whenever we were asked to take a will to someone in the hospital dying with pneumocystis or Kaposi's sarcoma. We were also always there to help the families of persons dying with AIDS with administering their son's estate, dealing with their domestic partner or roommate, matters that at the time were very awkward for people to talk about.
There may be mean people in high school, and there's mean people everywhere in life, but there are also just as many wonderful people. That many of you that come out early, don't worry, there'll be plenty of people that will join you. At your 10-year and your 20-year reunion, you know, there's going to be a lot more people, and those us cheerleaders, us football players, we come out sometimes a little bit later, but we will join you. There will be a whole posse. And that it's just really important for you to be yourself and to know who you are.
I'm Canadian, I'm Jewish, I'm gay, I'm a computer programmer, I'm a lawyer, I'm a lot of things. But if I were to sit at home and just worry about being gay and think that there was nothing out there for me because I'm gay, I never would have, if I had done that, I never would have been where I am now.
I'm together with the love of my life for 16 years. We have a baby on the way, and we have family that absolutely love both of us and support us in everything. So I can definitely tell you that it gets better.
One of my favorite stories is my grandmother, you know, at the old folks' home playing cards with her friends, and when somebody says something that's homophobic or anti-gay or unfriendly in general to gays, she makes it very clear that she's got a gay grandson, and that type of talk is just not welcome in her presence. And to have somebody who's 96 years old saying that to her friends tells you that it gets better.
I have a spouse now and a child, and that is more than I would have ever dreamed of in Texas growing up as a teenager. And my parents love my spouse and idolize my child, and that's what I mean when I say it not only gets better, it gets amazing.
Be true to yourself, and it gets better. When I see my kids at night when I come home from work, the struggles I had in school, the bitter divorce I had with my ex-wife, the pain that I went through, none of it matters. Because you know what? My kids matter to me, because they love me for who I am.
And I recently actually went back to my 10-year high school reunion, and I brought my wife, and we sort of went under the premise that, you know, we'll go, and if in 5 minutes it's uncomfortable, we'll leave. And we went and we stayed the whole night. It was amazing. People were wonderful. They were like, why don't you move back? You should live here. It'd be great. And I was so surprised, and it was really heartwarming.
We adopted a girl 14 years ago on Valentine's Day. So I've gotten to be the parent that I didn't think I could be. I've gotten to be the lawyer that I didn't think I could be. And I didn't think I could be all those things because I'd be gay.
Things do get better, and they've gotten a lot better. Every time I talk to my dad now, he says, give Michael a hug. That's my partner. He asks about him. He's spent countless amounts of time with us. He's a member of the family. So my father's gotten better, and that shows everybody can.
Love God, believe in God. I still do. But don't you dare let any man or any church, especially when they're claiming to interpret the Bible, tell you what God thinks of you. It gets better, so much better. And people say there's too many lawyers in the world, but I don't believe that. I don't believe that because our fight for equality is not over. And we need all the folks we can get on our team.
I just want you to know that it gets better.
The BALIF's doing everything it can to make it better.
It is getting better every day for every one of us.
Y las cosas se mejora. Hang in there.
Don't assume that life today is what life tomorrow will be. It gets better.
And it does get better, and we're making it better, and hopefully you will join us in making it better for yourself and for your own community